It's 8 a.m. on what should be an ordinary Tuesday morning. You're scrolling through the news with your morning coffee when every phone on Earth simultaneously receives the same emergency alert. Every television switches to the same broadcast. Every radio station carries the same impossible message. In a cosmic event that defies all logic and physics, every single nation recognized by the United Nations now possesses exactly 50 nuclear weapons. Countries that had thousands see their arsenals mysteriously reduced. Countries that had none find themselves with gleaming silos and launch codes they never created. Each weapon carries 25 megatons of destructive force. 10 are intercontinental ballistic missiles. The rest are tactical nukes. The Vatican now has the same nuclear capability as North Korea. Luxembourg can threaten Moscow. The Central African Republic could glass Paris if it wanted to. In this instant, the entire global power structure that has defined our world since 1945 has been completely shattered. What happens next will determine whether humanity survives the week. The first 60 seconds are pure chaos. In Washington, Moscow, and Beijing, military commanders scramble to understand how their nuclear arsenals have been decimated. The United States had over 5,000 warheads yesterday. Russia had 6,000. Now they each have 50. Meanwhile, in 185 countries that woke up without nuclear weapons, confused military personnel are discovering launch facilities that materialized overnight. Switzerland's famous neutrality suddenly means nothing when they have the power to end civilization. Even Liechtenstein, with its population of 39,000, now commands weapons that could erase entire cities. Within the first hour, the existing nuclear powers make a terrifying discovery. Their sophisticated early warning systems, their anti-ballistic missile defenses, their decades of nuclear doctrine, all of it was built around tracking a handful of nuclear adversaries. Now there are 193 nuclear powers, and their defense systems can't possibly track threats from every direction. The nuclear umbrella that protected allied nations has collapsed. Every country is now equally dangerous and equally vulnerable. The first crisis erupts within 3 hours. Reports flood in from the Middle East, where the situation has become a powder keg. Israel's nuclear ambiguity is meaningless now. Every one of its neighbors has the same 50 weapons. Iran, Syria, Lebanon, Jordan, Egypt, Saudi Arabia, all of them now possess arsenals that would have taken decades and billions of dollars to develop. The same weapons that kept an uneasy peace through deterrence have now multiplied the tensions by a factor of 20. In Kashmir, where India and Pakistan have maintained a delicate nuclear balance for decades, the equation has fundamentally changed. Both nations have seen their arsenals reduced to exactly 50 weapons. But now Bangladesh has 50 weapons too. So does Afghanistan, Sri Lanka, Nepal, the Maldives. Every historical grievance, every border dispute, every ethnic conflict in the region now has nuclear weapons attached to it. By the 6th hour, the world's militaries have mobilized to their highest alert levels. But there's a problem nobody anticipated. Countries that never had nuclear weapons don't have the infrastructure to secure them properly. Somalia's 50 warheads are technically under government control, but the government barely controls Mogadishu. In Haiti, where the state has essentially collapsed, nobody's quite sure who actually has the launch codes. The Democratic Republic of Congo is fighting 17 different armed groups within its borders. Any one of them could potentially seize a nuclear weapon. Within 12 hours, the global economy has crashed harder than any point in human history. The stock market doesn't just dip, it flatlines. Currency becomes meaningless when any nation could end civilization before the markets open tomorrow. International trade grinds to a halt. Why would you ship oil to a country that could vaporize your capital if they don't like the price? The first ultimatum comes 18 hours in. A small nation that nobody expected makes a demand that would have been laughable yesterday. They want territorial concessions from their larger neighbor. They want them immediately. And they have 50 nuclear weapons to back up their demand. This scenario plays out simultaneously in dozens of places. Eritrea threatens Ethiopia. Azerbaijan pressures Armenia. Every frozen conflict on Earth suddenly has the potential to go thermonuclear. 24 hours pass and somehow, miraculously, no nuclear weapon has been fired yet. But the world's intelligence agencies are picking up chatter that makes their blood run cold. In at least a dozen nations, military coups are being planned. After all, whoever controls the nuclear weapons controls the country. In nations with weak civilian oversight of the military, generals are realizing they now have ultimate power within their grasp. By day 2, the first nuclear weapon goes missing. Then another, then 5 more. Nations that barely had functioning governments yesterday certainly can't secure 50 nuclear weapons today. Criminal organizations that previously trafficked in drugs and weapons now have their eyes on a much bigger prize. Terrorist groups that dreamed of acquiring a single dirty bomb could potentially get their hands on city-killing warheads. On day 3, an unexpected development changes everything. The smaller nations begin forming unprecedented alliances. Microstates that never had significant military power band together. If one is attacked, they all retaliate. Suddenly, attacking San Marino means facing nuclear retaliation from Andorra, Monaco, Liechtenstein, and Vatican City. The Pacific Island nations form their own nuclear alliance. The Caribbean nations do the same. The world map is being redrawn not by conquest but by mutual assured destruction pacts. By the end of the first week, a strange new equilibrium begins to emerge. No nation has used their weapons yet, but the entire structure of international relations has transformed. The United Nations Security Council becomes meaningless when every member nation has equal nuclear capability. NATO can't guarantee protection when Luxembourg has the same nuclear arsenal as the United States. The concept of a superpower ceases to exist. Some nations, particularly those with stable democracies and no immediate threats, begin proposing something unprecedented. New Zealand, famously nuclear-free, offers to decommission all 50 weapons under international supervision if others will do the same. Costa Rica, which hasn't had a military since 1948, suggests turning their nuclear weapons into reactor fuel. A movement begins, slowly at first, of nations choosing to step back from the brink. But for every nation willing to disarm, there's another seeing opportunity. Disputes that festered for decades suddenly have leverage. Argentina mentions the Falklands. Spain brings up Gibraltar. Greece and Turkey eye each other nervously across the Aegean. The number of nuclear-armed standoffs around the globe multiplies exponentially. The real test comes when the first weapon is used, not by a nation-state, but by a non-state actor who managed to acquire one from a failed state's arsenal. The detonation, while limited to a single tactical weapon, sends shockwaves through the international community. If one weapon can be stolen and used, how many others are vulnerable? This is the new reality humanity faces. A world where every nation holds the power to end civilization, where traditional power structures have evaporated overnight, where the difference between survival and annihilation might come down to the wisdom or madness of leaders in countries most people couldn't find on a map. The nuclear club that once had 9 members now has 193. Can humanity survive when everyone has their finger on the trigger? When the smallest slight between nations could escalate to nuclear exchange? When weapons designed to end the world are now in the hands of governments that can barely keep the lights on? The answer lies not in military might or defensive systems, but in something far more fragile, human nature itself. Our capacity for reason against our instinct for revenge. Our desire for survival against our willingness to die for principle. Our ability to step back from the brink against our tendency to escalate conflicts. In this new world, every nation is equally powerful and equally vulnerable. Every leader holds the fate of humanity in their hands. Every decision could be the one that determines whether our species continues or whether Earth becomes a radioactive wasteland. The ultimate equalizer hasn't brought peace. It's brought the most dangerous game of nuclear chess ever played, where every player is one move away from ending the game forever.